Good morning, my name's Pandora and welcome to this tutorial on creating a name frame, or how to put text on the inside of a rectangle. This is designed for Pazzle inspiration owners so that you can cut out a frame for a photograph. Hope you find it interesting. So, in order to do this, I've opened up my Pazzle's Inspiration Studio. I've selected 12 by 12 as a paper size, and I've left the grid on because I find that's useful. And by the grid, I mean these little dots and lines that you can see. They're actually 1 inch apart. I find it's quite a useful guide in order to do things. So the first part that I'm going to do is I'm going to select my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle. Now I know that I actually want this rectangle to be 6 inches across. So I'm going to go up to my select tool, make sure the rectangle is selected, press the C on my keyboard, which will bring up my transformation window. And here I'm going to select in the width 6 inches for width and 6 inches for height, and I'm going to click on apply. And that's the first part. I don't need the transformation window for the moment, so I'm going to close it. Deselect by clicking anywhere else, and now I'm going to click on the type tool. For this particular project I selected Pinot Light, I think is how they pronounce it, and we're going to use the name Nathan. This is because this tutorial is in response to a request from Donna, who wanted to create a frame for a picture of Nathan. So here we go. Now the simplest way to do this, which may seem slightly perverse, because what we actually want to do is end up with the name sitting here on the inside of the frame, and you'd think we should put it there and start, but actually it's somewhat perverse, but we actually do the opposite. What we're going to do is we're going to put it up here at the top of the frame, and just to make life simple I'm going to click and drag and select the whole thing and move it down so it comes down to the bottom here. Don't worry about it overlapping the 12 by 12 marking square, we'll sort that out shortly. And since it's overlapped more or less where I want it to be, what I want to ensure before I go ahead and weld the square to the name is that they're centered. So making sure they're both selected and I can see the selection boxes around the edge, I'm going to come across to the justification tool on the left hand toolbar here, come up to the top and select center, and you can see it's now adjusted. So far so good. They're still both selected. I'm going to come across and choose the weld tool, and you can see now, especially if I zoom in slightly, that we actually have the name welded to the rectangle. So far so good. The next bit's a little odd, but you get used to it. Come up and select the second tool down the left, the move point tool. And what we're going to do now is come down to the bottom, click on this bottom corner area, and literally missing it. Click and drag from the bottom up to the top. Click and drag from the bottom up to the top. Now I'm going to do something and leave this quite deliberately crooked so that you can see what to do if it happens to you. If you can see, it's definitely much higher on the left hand side here than it is on the right hand side. There is actually a marvellous tool which will help you out with this. Up on the move toolbar there is this vertical and horizontal bar. It basically straightens your lines, makes life so much simpler for you. So if you click on that, come down to the line that you want to straighten, click on that, can you see it's automatically straightened it? I actually think my side lines might be a bit wonky, so I'm going to click on those as well. And can you see the difference here between the left one and the right one? Now if I click on the right one, we'll sort it all out. So that's all quite good and proper. Now what we want to do is actually create an outer rectangle. However, one of the things that's ever so easy to do, or forget to do at this point, is to group the object. Now the reason you should group it is if I use my select tool, if I click and drag, deselect and click and drag, can you see what I've done is left behind the inside parts of the letters, and we don't want that to happen. So let's just click on undo, put it back together again, click and drag around all of it, come up to Shape, click on Group, and now if I deselect and then click and move it, you'll see that it moves all as one piece. While I've got it selected, I just want to check that it's still the right size that I want, so I'm going to click on C on my keyboard, and can you see in all the moving around I've got something slightly less than I wanted. So I'm going to put in 6 for the width and 6 for the height, and click on Apply, and now I have the right height and the right size. And I'm going to leave the transformation box up because what I want to do now is create an outer frame for this. So now what I want to do is create the outer rectangle for our frame. Come across, select the rectangle tool, and click and drag approximately the shape you want it to be. Because I've left the transformation window open, I'm going to come across and I'm going to select 8 in the width and 8 in the height, and click on Apply. And now I know that I've got the box the size I want, the outer box the size I want it. Let's just close the transformation window down. Again, I'm going to come across to select my Select Elements tool, click and drag, and make sure I have the whole thing selected. Come across to the Justification tool and center, so that we know it's centered in each other, and then vertically center it, so that I know the inner box is horizontally and vertically centered. Now at this point, one of the things that I want to do is I want to make sure I can cut the inner line first, so that I cut all these small pieces out before I cut the outer line. This is to prevent the paper moving. If you cut the outside line, sometimes it can work a bit loose, so I want to do the small things first. So I'm simply going to select on the inner line, come across, right click, so I turn the inner line red, and then I can tell the cutter to cut that part first. At this point, click and drag and select the whole image, go up to Shape and group them. This way, should you want to move it around the page, you'll find that you can click and move it around the page in order to save paper. We all hate wasting paper, I know.